Hi everyone, welcome to the Timeform and Sporting Live Saturday racing preview. It's a fairly low-key Saturday ahead of the Sky Bet York Ebor Festival next week, but there is money to be made, hopefully. And I've got Matt Brocklebank from Sporting Life and Kieran Clark from Timeform to try and find us a few winners on Saturday afternoon. Gents, we're going to look at the Hungerford Stakes at Newbury and the Great St Wilfrid Handicap at Ripon, but it's the Hungerford Stakes first, the group race, and if we get the Timeform ratings on screen, Kieran, we'll see that English Oak, the impressive Buckingham Palace Stakes winner from Royal Ascot, is £1 clear at the top of the ratings.
Yeah, no, it's not a vintage Hungerford, but I think that's probably going to be the case, given that the City of York is only next Saturday. Now, if that race does end up a Group 1, I think there's every chance this race will either get moved or downgraded to something like a Group 3, because all these 7 furlong races seem to come thick and fast towards the second half of the season. But yeah, he's top-rated English Oak. He's really progressed through handicap ranks. We saw what he did at Royal Ascot, and I did the Timeform report when he ran in the Lennox, which we'll see in a minute, and I was willing to forgive him, Scoop. I don't think he really fully handled the track. Cyberflow was behind him that day. Kikuli's the 3-year-old taking on his elders. He looks quite an intriguing one. He ran really well in the Jersey, and maybe found things happening a bit quick in France. We'll touch on him as well. And the main thing, I think, is how this race will develop. That's the key we'll touch on later as well.
We will. Let's have a look at that Lennox Stakes then at Goodwood, because it is a key form clue. Talk us through this, Kieran, and why you think that English Oak can prove this run all wrong.
Well, this race was basically over after 2 furlongs because there went no pace whatsoever. You've got Art Power in front. He finishes placed, and Audience at second. This is Audience, sort of the key way to ride him, quickening off a slow pace. We saw that happen in the Lock-Inge. And I don't think English Oak handled the idiosyncratic track. You see there in the red cap, just coming under pressure. He starts lugging to his right. Now, I saw him in the flesh at York last year. He's massive. He's really, really tall sort, and usually you want quite a nippy sort around Goodwood, I think. It can be a bit undulating.
Yeah, did you see the interview with James Doyle as well on the TV just in the week as well? He offered a small excuse as well, that he came back with one of his shoes was just a bit twisted, almost spread a plate. He seemed to think that he wasn't right really throughout, and was more than happy to sort of put a line through that in terms of pure form. I think Doyle and the Wathnan team are pretty confident English Oak can bounce back from it.
Yeah.
But as you say, pace, lack of, is a massive issue.
Exactly, and just flying home there with third was Kim Ross. Keep an eye out for him at York next week. But yeah, pace was a key thing. I think we'll probably come on to Kikuli, who seems to all his best form. I think it's been in a real well-run race. He nearly beat Hartem in the Jersey. What do you reckon, Matt? I think he wants a real well-run race, Kikuli.
Yeah, Kikuli's. I mean, first thing I suppose is that it's good that he's here, and it's not a bad little turnout considering, as you say, with the York race next week, because we have had small Hungerfords, haven't we? Small field races for this in the past, so it's not bad. And Kikuli is one of the real star attractions, really, being a half brother to Frankel, and he looked so promising early. Won the Alex Scott Maiden at the start of the year at Newmarket. And then, as you say, back on quicker ground, I think that could be key to him, because I don't think he handled the soft particularly well. Well, officially good to soft, but it wasn't great ground in France last time, but clearly liked the fast ground at Royal Ascot. He did really seem to enjoy that big field, the big, the Jersey Stakes there.
Real strong travelling type, isn't he?
Yeah, he's quite relaxed, isn't he, for a Frank? He was
a bit keen in France. Yeah. I think they ran him back too quick.
He just seemed to be a bit flat. Whether it was the ground, whether it came too quick. Well, he certainly had a break now.
Yeah.
The official handicapper has him 112. That's quite a decent mark for this kind of race. I think they'd be a bit disappointed if he doesn't win Group 2 races at some stage.
We have got a video clue of Kikuli. It is from earlier in the season at Sandown in the Heron Stakes. There he is in the pink cap, the Juddmonte Silks, Matt.
Yeah, this was quite early in his development, wasn't it? Straight on the back of winning his maiden, he was tossed into the listed race there. Sandown, soft ground again. I don't think it was necessarily playing for himself. Well. Stiff mile, yeah. Since obviously proven that 7 furlongs isn't a bad thing for him. Subsequent to this, and he finishes a fairly well-held second to Almakam, who we obviously saw in Deauville, finishing third yesterday behind Economics, who's obviously a bit of a monster. So in overall form, he should be sort of thereabouts in a Group 2 race. I still think he has huge potential. This sort, you know,
He gets
it's early
he gets the
days.
weight for age.
Yeah, he does, as he's entitled to as a 3-year-old, which is why, you know, on Timeform's ratings, he's not coming out top, is he? No, he's a little bit held by these.
And that's because he hasn't taken on the calibre of horse that the likes of an English Oak has. And it's sometimes these handicappers that come through the ranks, because of the way the ratings work, you'll see handicappers come out quite high into
on the pure form of that close second to Hartem. Now, obviously, Hartem had the penalty and was given it on the Jersey Stakes form. If he can run to that level in a perfect world, he for me should take the world a beating. But I am a little bit concerned that he's a short enough price, isn't he? Considering he's not going to get that end-to-end gallop that we saw at Ascot.
Well, let's talk about how it might pan out then, Kieran. You alluded to it earlier. It's key how this race is going to be run. We can look at the pace map and try and decipher what's going to happen from an early stage.
Yeah, so I've had a look. None of these horses have ever led before, so who knows who's going to go forward. Maybe Folgaria down the bottom from a high draw, but one horse, a couple of horses I can't see this suiting. Witch Hunter, one of them, last year's winner, goes really, really well on a straight track. Jamie Spencer booked, who we know he's a great jockey, come from behind style. But he needs the right end-to-end gallop. He's not going to get that here.
Jumby wants to gallop as well.
Jumby does as well, yeah. He tends to misses the break. Kikuli, if this was going to be a well-run race, I'd really fancy Kikuli. But a real test of speed at 7 furlongs, I'd be really concerned. That's what he wants. He was sticking on there over a mile at Sandown. And I think the one that this will tee up for his English Oak, I'll stick with our top rated. He's still got that P. I still think he's going to be well up to this kind of grade. And I just can't really get away from him. When he hammered a small field at Haydock earlier in the year, that wasn't a great pace on in that race, and he really stormed through the line. I just think he's got the best turn of foot. He's got form at 6 furlongs. I think he should be 9-4 rather than 3-1. I'm gonna really get stuck into him.
That is a good point. I must admit, if I had to have a bet in this race, it would be English Oak. Matt, have you got a thought or a selection?
I haven't got an outsider, unfortunately. No, Kikuli would be my tip for it. I think Oisin Murphy will try and get him settled sort of a bit more prominent this time. I know he kind of tried to hold on to him and follow the pace setter, didn't he, over in France last time, and then they reported that he got a bit lit up at halfway when the two groups came together.
It's a weird race, that French
race.
I'm
just not going to trust that race.
Yeah.
If you go back to the Hartem run, I think Kikuli should probably see these off.
Okay. Interesting. Hungerford Stakes at Newbury, 3:35 Saturday. But 15 minutes before that, it is the William Hill Great St Wilfrid Handicap at Ripon. 18 sprinters going to battle in North Yorkshire. And this is a tricky race, lads. Let's have a look at the Timeform ratings, and we shall see, KC, that Ramazan is top rated there for Richard Fahey.
He is, yeah. He's got some cracking form in real top-end handicaps. The Egg Cup and the Victoria Cup, he was second in both of them. Looks potentially on the way back in the Stewards Cup last time. A few of these ran down at Goodwood. Then you've got Rock Opera second in, who ran in the Racing League on Thursday. Also trained by Richard Fahey. Emperor Spirit of Robert Cowles. He's a pace angle. We'll come to that later on, which could be quite interesting where the pace is going to come from. Summergand, who's made the frame a few times in this. I really fancied him 2 years ago and he just failed. Now, he is a bit of a hostage to fortune. Very much his time of year. He dead heated at York last year at the EBA meeting, but I do think he needs everything to fall right, and it might not go his way. Dare to Hope, another runner for Richard Fahey. Now, he is really interesting.
Got a good chance, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He was caught on the wrong side in the Sky Bet Dash, and then he was caught on the wrong side again in the Stewards Cup last time, and that replay's definitely worth a watch back. But yeah, it's a real competitive race. It's probably not the the real high-class sprint you'd expect, with a few here rated in the 80s, but it's still tricky.
First video clue, Matt, is Kitai getting beaten at Goodwood.
I think she won, Scoop. She comes out on top.
Did she win?
She won narrowly on the stand side here. Makes.
You can tell I was in Greece.
You've been on holiday, haven't you?
You still thought she was trained by Mark Johnson.
Well, that's the thing with her. Yeah, she's won handicaps last year for Charlie Johnson off marks of 80 and 85, so was clearly well handicapped, and she's gone up £3 for this narrow victory and runs off 83 at the weekend, so still loads of scope. They tried her in listed races last year. She's got that kind of ability, and Mick Appleby, surprise, seems to have just rekindled it. Just looks another really good piece of business for me.
Change of tactics this time, Matt. She finally got away on terms, and they gunned her from the front, and it seemed to really suit her.
They did, didn't they? Look, again here, she's almost had to do her own work on this stand side, and I've got a funny feeling it might be a similar story on Saturday with Joanna Mason booked, and she's this filly's drawn in stall 2, which is the far side at Ripon, which, you know, they will spread across the track, I suspect, here, won't they? And there is pace, a little bit of pace high, but I think there's plenty of pace low, and Kittai is probably going to be on the sharp end of that pace on the far side.
I think most of the pace is low. You look at those confirmed front runners, you've got Radio Gugu out of 7, Kittai out of 2, Emperor Spirit out of 10. There's nothing really 12 and above that. You usually think Ripon, you want to be on that stand rail, but I can't see anything. Maybe Mr. Wagyu sitting just off it, but there's nothing that's going to gun down that stand rail. So I do think it's quite interesting how this might develop. I don't know. I don't know. Do you think they'll all come one side, or do you think they'll do the usual?
I think they'll split into
groups? Yeah, I do as well.
Well, we've looked at Kittai from the far side. We're going to look at Wob Wob Wob, who is drawn more towards the stand side now for Adrian Keatley, and he does get beaten at Goodwood.
Yeah, I thought he ran a perfectly fine race. You see him there on the inside in the yellow and white. Now, he was best of his race in his group in this race last year, and he went on to win the Air Silver Cup. Adrian Keatley's been in really good form. This was a really competitive race, and when you see the finish in a minute, you'll wonder how on earth he's finished 6th, because it looked like he was going to finish 2nd for a long way. Now he's back down to 6th. I think a well-run 6 on a straight track really does suit him. The problem I've got is the draw. He's drawn 15. He might just be a little bit away from it, but you see here he gets the cutaway up the inside, and he looks like he potentially should finish 2nd or 3rd here as Blueprint surges to the front, and then he just gets swamped by those flying down the outside. But when you see who they are, you've got Racing Breaks Rider, who ran well last night in a Racing League race. You got Billy Joe in there. There's a mixture. Jack Shannon has
been in good form.
Yeah, Jack Shannon horse that was in cracking form finished in the frame as well. So that is rock solid form, and you can't discount Wob Wob Wob.
Won the race last year, didn't he?
He did. He was 3rd last year off a similar mark. He went on to win at Ayr. You think, is that Ayr the target again? Another crack at the Silver Cup. Brilliant trainer, Adrian Keatley, isn't he? I think he'll have a chance, but about 9-1, just with the fact that it might develop a bit away from him, I was willing to take him on. But if you want to have an each-way stab at him, I couldn't put you off.
Selection time in the Great St Wilfrid, Matt?
Yeah, I might end up with 2 here. I do like Kittai. I think she's an in-form filly, clearly well handicapped still. Mick Appleby has sweetened her up, I think. Yeah, she's got a cracking chance. Joe Mason, obviously, who we spoke to on the podcast this week, in superb form as well. Really good. A good ride for her to pick up, isn't it? I think the other one to mention, I've spoke to Richard Fire this morning as well, and it sounds like Rock Opera's the intention is definitely to run again, and I quite like this quick turnaround. We do see it every summer and towards the back end of the season, where these in-form sprinters are turned around just a couple of days after another good run. Obviously, like Aberama Gold last year did it two in a week. And I think
he ran really well at York, didn't he, when he was flying from the back?
This was in the Sky Bet Dash.
Just
totally from off the pace, and he was a big eye catcher again, I thought, at Windsor on Thursday evening. That was a good run.
I've reported on him a few times. He wants a well-run 6 furlongs. He could pop up in
ground.
this or a Bronze Cup or something.
Yeah,
like that.
He wants a well-run 6 furlongs on decent ground.
Yeah.
I think he's got a squeak in this. It was. It was a good run at Windsor. It was a bit of an eye-catching effort, I thought.
Kieran?
I ran some stats before we ran down Scoop, and there's been 30 sprint handicaps at Ripon this year, and 9 of them have been won by front runners. So the expected was just under 4. So
you can easily get on a roll at Ripon.
Overperforming, yeah, and that's what put me off Rock Opera slightly, the fact he likes to come from behind. And so I'm going to... Kittai, if she breaks on term, she'd have a very good chance. She thrived under that change to front-running tactics last time, but she can miss the kick. So I'm going to take a chance with the David Evans Radio Goo Goo from one of your favourite Song Scoop. And she's a really likeable front-runner who gives her all. And she could well be the Queen of Ripon tomorrow, because she ran really well at York in the Sky Bet Dash. She ran really well at Chepstow in a Racing League event. And she goes from the front. She's drawn 7. I think 10-1. I'll be having a few quid on her.
Excellent stuff. Good luck with your selections. And finally, we're going to finish with best bet from each of you from anywhere you like on Saturday, anywhere in the country.
Grey's race for me. Can I go first?
Oh, Newmarket. Yeah, the Grey Horse Handicap.
I like the Grey's race.
I love the Grey's race as well. A grey that's not that
grey. That's not a grey,
It's not that grey.
One that's been laid out, yeah.
Every year you're like, Is that definitely grey? It's sort of got, a bit like me, grey around the edges. Archduke Ferdinand. This is the 205 at Newmarket. It's one of the outsiders in this, but I think he's got a decent chance. Cheap pieces go back on for this race. Looks like the target. Tried 6 furlongs last time. It's too sharp at York.
He ran all right, didn't he? Just like to turn a foot.
Ran perfectly well. Was handy enough throughout, but then prior to that, the stiff mile at Newcastle was too much of a test. So I think 7 furlongs is ideal. He's on a good mark. Runs off his lowest mark now for 12 months, and he's been running pretty well of late. I think this might have been a target for Archduke Ferdinand.
I like that.
Kieran?
Lethal Levi at Newbury for me, who didn't run too good in the Stewards' Cup, but I thought he shaped a bit better than the distance beaten suggests. He was drawn in single figures and high numbers dominated that, and he made all in a 6 furlong handicap here earlier in the season.
Quality handicap, isn't he?
Yeah, and he ran a cracker in the Bunbury Cup. He probably does want a speed favour in 7, but there's no pace on in this. He's the only confirmed front runner. I think he'll get an easy time of it on the front end on the Clifford Lee, and I think 15-2. I'm happy to take a chance on him. I think he should be more 5-1, something like that.
Excellent stuff. Archduke Ferdinand for Matt in the Greys race. And
Lethal Levi.
Lethal Levi.
Nice to know you were listening. Thank you, Ben.
In the Newbury.
Have you got one for us, Ben?
I've got several on Saturday, but you'll have to
read the column.
Yeah. That time has beaten us. I enjoyed that, gents. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Enjoy Saturday's racing, and we'll be back again next week for York.